Well, hey y'all. Today I am wanting to make what we call sopes. You can call it kind of like a tortilla boat, but of course then it gets prepared into a meal. I am kind of making it in a way you can say because for my boys, because they love it, and also since currently tomorrow is Father's Day here in the United States, and their father was the one that taught me how to make these. It's one of the few things that he knew how to do that I didn't, and most everything else I learned from his sister-in-law, but he did teach me how to do these, so I'm making these for my boys, kind of you can say as a nod to him, because while I know that my marriage is irreversibly damaged, they still love and miss their father, and honestly, I understand that they do. And so this is kind of sort of for them, and also for me, because once you know what a sope is and have had it, who doesn't love them? I mean, really. So now granted, I'm getting ready to start to make the tortillas. It's a little bit different than regular tortillas, but I've already got the vegetables going for the salsa, and like I said, I will explain this all shortly. But in the meantime, I'm going to cut up or dice, or I'm not sure what the word is, but I'm going to cut up the lettuce the way that it would need to be done for the sopes, because it is something that's going to need to get done anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. For this lettuce, I want it to be already split in half, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put one little bit off to the side because I need it to stay off to the side. And then this is going to be a very finely shredded, diced, whatever is the word, as finely diced as you can possibly get it. I'm going to kind of just lean it onto its side. I want it to come off super duper uber thin. This is not your typical, let me put it this way, this is not the typical shredding that I would see like in tacos or anything like that here in the United States. This is completely different. If you've seen my video about the flautas, it's pretty much the exact same deal. But for just in case, I can't think off the top of my head of anything else that I'm going to want to do with this kind of lettuce shredding. But for just in case, that's also one of the reasons that I wanted to do this early in this video, so that if in any other videos I need to do this, I can just point you to this video and it's right at the beginning. I'm not sure where it is in my video about the flautas. So you can see that it's very finely shredded. I mean, look at that, how extremely thin that is, okay? It's very super duper thin, and that's exactly what you're going to look for. If you can't get it that thin, don't worry about it. And also you can use either lettuce or cabbage. I've also seen cabbage used. Whichever one that you prefer. I had lettuce, so I'm going to use what I have. And I will be back after this is pretty well shredded. This lettuce is nicely shredded up. So the only other thing that I would say that you need to do, obviously, before you serve the sopes, is that this needs to get rinsed off, because in between now and when I serve the meal, or even if you were to cut it directly before serving, even maybe before the meal would be finished, it would start to be turning brown. So you're going to want to get it rinsed off. I don't know what it is, but the contact of the metal with the lettuce makes it to turn brown. So you're going to want to do that. Otherwise, it's ready to go. The next step in this sopes, you can say, is gonna be the actual tortillas or the sopes themselves. They are called sopes, even though in essence they are a very thick tortilla, and I'm getting ready to show you how to make them. Here I have my, you could call it Maseca. It's usually some kind of instant masa for tortillas. It's gonna say it on any bag of the corn flour. It's not going to be your cornmeal. It is a corn flour. Now, sometimes I have had in the past where I would add some flour to it. You can if you want to, especially like, okay, I'm trying to see about how much I've got my hand here. So, I mean, it's not an extremely huge amount of Maseca, but at the same time, it's a, I don't know. I would probably, with this much, I would have, you know, I wouldn't say a full handful, but I would take a somewhat larger clump of wheat flour and put it into there, mix it up real quick. It's not necessary though, I have definitely found that out. Then of course you want your water. And then you're just going to take it and mix it up until you get a firm dough. You don't want it to be as watery as you're going to get the one for tortillas. You want it to be a teeny bit firmer. Somewhat like for the empanadas. Now, of course, when I'm editing my video, I am likely to take out some of the times that I'm adding water. So please don't think that it's only as little as I may end up showing that I actually added. And just like what I said with my tortilla video and also my empanada video, you just want it so that if you take it, okay, you see I've got this right in between my fingers, I can take it and it's going to take it straight off my hand. That is exactly what you're going to look for. If it still feels a little bit stiff, then you can add a teeny little bit of water. This is I don't know, this is good. This would definitely be pretty good for empanadas because it's a little bit more stiff, but I want it just ever so slightly less. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more water, not much, just a teeny little drizzle. Especially you think about how much masa or maseca that I've got here. So this is a little drizzle compared to how much. You would want a lot less if you have a lot less of the maseca or the instant corn flour. I wish that I could show you guys that you could feel this, but this feels really, really, really good. It's a teeny bit more stiff than what I would do for regular just plain tortillas, but it's good because I don't want it to be as thin and so easily flattenable. All of a sudden my brain's not working in English right now, but at the same time I want it to be where it's a little bit more firm so it doesn't get so flat so easily with the tortillera. Next step in this process is to get the actual tortillas made, which I will show you what is the difference momentarily. If you check out my other tortilla video, you will see that I have a very small ball. I believe that I had said that especially with some, you could have like less than a quarter cup or maybe an eighth cup of masa. With this, you're going to want your hand pretty full. Unless you have a much larger hand than mine, then you may or may not want it to be that full. Of course, I have a small, more delicate, petite hand. But at the same time, I'm just trying to give you a guesstimate. This is probably a definite quarter cup. I really hadn't thought about it. But this one, you don't want to have it go down so firmly. You see, it's become a little bit rounder. Okay, you can see that. Let me just take a look. It's about the size of my hand, not quite. I want it a little bit larger than that. It can use a little bit more flattening, but actually what I often do, and I'm sorry if it's crazy noise, I will try not to. But you can see that just with the palm of my hand, I flatten it out just by beating on it. You see that? And now it's actually quite a bit bigger than the palm of my hand. I don't want it to be extremely huge. It doesn't need to be the size of a regular tortilla. I just need it to be, you know, like a small tortilla size, but much thicker. I will show you why right shortly. But you see that? Check out the thickness of it. Of course, you want any regular tortillas to be just as thin as you can possibly make them. So next, of course, is to put it on the comal, onto the griddle. And here we go. We're just going to put that one right there onto the griddle. I'm going to do another one real quick, and I will put it onto the other side of the griddle while this one is cooking. It's going to take a teeny bit longer because of the fact that it's thicker, of course. And I actually turned down the heat on the griddle itself, because usually I would have it, I know I've said in some of my other videos, it's low, 2, 3, 4, medium, 6, 7, 8, high. And most of the time when I'm making regular tortillas, they're going to be about a 6, 6.5, because that's just the way that my griddle is. Right now I've got it right about medium heat. And in the meantime, I'm seeing that it's still not moving much, which means that it's still not very well cooked on that one side. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and get the next one ready to go. Here we go with the next one. It is getting right on there. That one is starting to look like it very well may be ready to flip. So I'm going to take a knife and kind of go around the edges. Actually, it looks, I don't know, let's see if you can see. It's got a little bit of dough on there. So I'm somewhat afraid of trying to get it to go too soon. There we go. That moved all on its own. So that baby's ready. Oh, and that's beautiful. Can you see that? Oh my word. Anyways, so this is pretty much, it's going to be very similar concepts to that of making regular tortillas, just with a little bit of a twist, you can say. And I will show that to you momentarily. I'm thinking that this one may be already ready to flip again, just like a regular tortilla. Just the same, you're going to flip it twice. And this one, as you can see, I just did flip. And this one, I'm going to just flip again. But one thing I will mention is that because of the thickness sometimes, this one moves up quite a lot. But because of the thickness, sometimes it doesn't poof up that much. And I'm not worried about that, honestly. I really am not. Sometimes it's a beautiful thing to see on rare occasion, but I'm thinking that this one may be too fat, so you may be unable to see when it poofs up. But at the same time, that one's done. It's beautiful. I'm going to leave this actually right here. I'm going to leave that right there on the counter while I get the next one onto the comal. Here we go. I'm going to get this one turned around. And this one looks like it may balloon a little bit. Not a whole lot, but I'm not going to freak out about it. In the meantime, I'm going to come over here and show you how to make the actual sope into a bowl. You are going to want to do this while it's still hot. That is why I'm using a napkin, because it's hot. And I really don't prefer to burn my fingers. I'm going to take those edges and kind of just pinch them up. And then I just do that because I won't leave this on there for that long. I will tell you, you don't want to leave them on there for too long, like on the counter by themselves, because they will cool down. And once they cool down, this is very difficult. So you want to do it while they're very hot. Thus the reason for the napkin. I am not a masochist, never have been, and I have no joy in any kind of pain. So there we have it though. An actual sope, it is ready for the next steps. I'm going to do one more so that y'all can see it. And like I said, you're just pinching up the sides because you do want it to become almost like a tortilla boat type. If it rips a little bit, you know what? So what? You know, it will probably be all right. And if it's not, well, you know what? So long as it still tastes good, right? And there we go. Here we have all of my sopes. They are completely done. And as you can see, some of them are actually stacked a little bit. If you have a lack of counter space, you absolutely can, but you will want to let them cool off enough that they're not going to be emitting any of that humidity in there, because even if you take a piece of toast out of the toaster, it's completely dry, but you put it on a plate, you're going to notice that there's going to be humidity coming off of that, and just like that, you don't want that humidity transferring onto another of the sopes, because when you put it into the oil, it's going to splash. In the meantime, I have this chorizo. It's just getting fried up. And of course, if you need to know anything more about that, I have my video on huevos con chorizo, which is of course eggs with chorizo. And apparently my pan is wanting to try to be sticky instead of non-stick, but you know, it is what it is. In the meantime, I'm going to get some fried beans going, and of course I will include that for the video that I have on fried beans. I'm getting ready to do them right in here. And then these sopes will be just about ready to be done. The last step pretty much in making sopes, which of course I already have a green salsa made, and you will see when I'm getting ready to put everything together, you'll see that I've got that, and it goes on there, so that's going to be included. But the last thing that you're going to want to do is just fry the sopes. You could call it deep fried. This is some oil that's kind of left over from the other day. I made some empanadas, so it's a teeny bit dirty, I guess. It's got some leftovers, but it fries fine. Now it looks like it's starting to boil, and I'm somewhat hesitant to try to do anything quite yet because I want to make sure that it's boiling pretty good. I don't want it to be too hot, but I definitely want it to be very hot. And also, the other thing I was going to mention is the fact that you're going to want, obviously, utensils that are completely dry. These are wooden, but it doesn't matter, they're dry. It's starting to look like it's getting pretty good, so I'm going to do a test run and hopefully it works out in my favor. We're about to find out. I think I'm just going to leave that there for a second. It's starting to look like, yep, it's starting to do good. So, I'm going to just kind of run it around a little bit, let it fill up with that hot oil. But it's gonna take a minute, and as you can see maybe, that it's starting to form these bubbles all around it, and that's because it's very hot oil. That is what you want. And if I had any masa that was left over, unfortunately I don't. If I did, I would use it just like I did with the empanadas and things like that. I would take just a teeny itsy bitsy little piece and put it in there to see if it would start to boil or fry or whatever is the word. But at the same time, it's just fine like this. I'm gonna leave it though for a minute because of course this is somewhat cooled down, and each time that you add something cool to that oil, it's gonna cool the temperature of all the oil ever so slightly. And for obvious reasons, I don't want it to be cool oil. I want it to be definitely hot and ready to do this as soon as I put any more in there. And of course I have now added the second one, and it's doing pretty good. And this one may be ready to flip. It depends on how crunchy you like your sopes, which of course, obviously if you've never had them before, you're not going to know. I love my sopes super duper uber crunchy. So I will leave them obviously in there for a little bit longer, but I don't necessarily leave my boys in there as long as I leave mine because they like theirs a little bit more chewy, I guess is probably a good word to use. And then I'm going to just add the third one, and it should start to bubble up pretty good, pretty quickly. See, it's just because that oil is good and hot, and that way there should be no issues. I'm actually going to turn up the heat just ever so slightly. I don't want it to be too hot because then there's lots of reasons. But right now, I now have my burner on just below medium heat. And of course, I've got room for one more, so I definitely want to put it in there. Then I'm going to take this one. This one was the first one that I put in here, and I'm going to just flip it over. And you may be able to see, I can't tell for sure if you can see on the camera, but it's got a nice little, it's a different color. It's a teeny bit darker than what it was when it first went in there. Let me see. I'm going to show you the comparison. You see, there's the difference, and you're going to want it, of course it's going to turn somewhat darker just because it went into that oil, but at the same time you're still going to be looking for it to change a little bit darker than that. It doesn't necessarily need to be upside down for all that long because of the fact that you've already had the oil inside of it, but it just makes the inside a little bit closer to the flame or to the heat. The heat source, I guess, is probably a good way of putting it. And so you just want it to be in there for just a little bit. I don't know. It depends, like I said, on how crunchy that you want these or how chewy. I'm going to leave that one for a minute because it felt like it was still very, very not fried enough. So in just a minute, I will flip them back over, and then they'll be ready to get on out the oil. Of course, I just flipped over this last one. But this one is starting to look like it's pretty much ready to go. So I'm turning that back over. I'm going to make sure that it gets a little bit more filled with oil. They're starting to feel like they are more fried. They're a little bit more sturdy, although they still should be a bit chewy. There we go. And we'll flip this one. The way that I know that mine will be ready is when these edges of the sope they pretty much don't move that much. These you can still move. They're still somewhat malleable, but not that much. I believe that they're pretty much ready to come on out. And let me see if I can't get this one where y'all can see it. I'm going to just kind of flip it over. Alright. And that way it can drain. And then I can put the one spatula or spoon or whatever you've got to be able to hold it up. Just putting it on there so that you can drain that oil without it falling off and back into the oil for obvious reasons. And then I'm just going to take it over here and into a dish that's got some napkins in it. It's an 8x8 glass dish, but it's not necessarily anything that you have to have. It's just what I currently have available. So that's that. And then I'm going to get the next one, get it out the oil. It's just going to drain just for a couple of seconds. It's not needed to be all that long. And then you just put it in there. And then it will drain and cool, obviously, on its own time. One thing I was going to mention too, I will show you. This one, for whatever reason, opened up a little bit. I think you might be able to see it right here. It did. So what? It really is not that big of a deal. I'm not going to freak out about it because you just, the way that I made the fried beans, you don't necessarily have to make them where they're dry. But they are more pasty this time than what I did the last time. And actually, you can even look at the bottom part of it, and it's not completely ripped. It's fine. So it's going to hold in them beans. And then I'll take out this last one, and then I will finish doing the frying up, and then I will show y'all how to put these babies together. Here we have, everything is ready for the preparation of the sopes. You have your fried sopes. They have already drained quite a bit of that oil off of them, which is the reason, of course, that they were on their side in that dish. Next, I have my fried beans, which they're not soupy like I did the other day. They're a little bit more thick, but they're still definitely, you can tell it's fried beans. So I'm going to just put a scoop in each of these. And you don't necessarily need to fill it. You won't want to fill it up with the beans because for one, there's other things to put in there. And for two, it's easy to spread around. You're just going to take that and spread her out. See? There we go. I'm going to do one first without anything other than the beans. So if you're only going to have beans on it, sometimes I've seen plenty of people that they've had like carnitas or grilled meat on it, things like that, and that is absolutely acceptable. Obviously, it depends on what you have, what your budget will take care of. While I was with the ex, this is mostly what we did, just the straight beans. So then the next is just going to get some of this Cotija cheese. Obviously, if this is, I had heard someone say something about it being kind of like Parmesan type cheese. I really don't know because I really haven't paid attention how much it is similar or not. So you can take that, and depending on your likes of it, you can douse it or whatever is the word, pour it on. I'm just trying to be gentle to make it look prettier, being honest. This, you could say, is vanity, whatever. Next, if you do want chorizo or some kind of meat on your sope, you're going to take some of that meat and just take it and put it kind of all over everywhere. I mean, this is a different kind of chorizo than what I'm used to most of the time. So it's not spreading as nicely as the other one does. It is what it is. Then I'm going to leave that like that. Next, you're going to want to get some green salsa. And this didn't turn out that spicy at all, but at the same time, I'm going to just do just a teeny drizzle on the sopes. And if you want to add the meat after this, that's fine obviously as well. Then, almost done. I'm only doing this because, yes, vanity, I will admit. I'm going to take that and just kind of but I'm trying to keep it somewhat even, if that makes sense. So you're going to have some in most every bite. And the last part is going to be that shredded lettuce. So there you have it. Sopes a la mexicana, Mexican style sopes. This is the style of sopes that of course they eat where my in-laws are from. I've seen in many local, more authentic Mexican restaurants that they will put lettuce and tomato, which of course has got lettuce, but like differently diced lettuce, and then tomato on it and avocado. I have never had that with the ex's family. So this is the way that I know how to do it, and I hope that if you make it, that you will enjoy it. Absolutely comment and let me know how it turns out. I hope that my videos are helpful in a way that you can actually do these things and enjoy cooking, because I love to cook and I love to spread the joy. If you like my videos, hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you think that I might be of extra help in the future, hit the notification bell because I'm trying to put something out, if not every week, then every 2 weeks. Can't think of anything else, so y'all just have a delicious day.